Why did you make me do that?
Look at me. Focus on my voice. I'm not giving up on you, Jean.
She was my friend.
You're my family, Jean. Stop, no matter what.
Stop, stop, stop!
Look. You're special, Jean. And if you stop fighting that force inside you, if you embrace it, you will possess the very power of a god.
She'll kill us all. Tell me how we fix this, Charles. Tell me what to do. I don't know what to do.
Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University. I am your Professor Mario Rivera, and joining me is the marvelous doctoral student, ClycloneMC, who has a bachelor's in the MCU, a master's in the multiverse, and is going for their dissertation in Marvel Studies. Sly, how are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm so excited to be here with you today, talking about, of course, the hit X-Men movie that I've never heard of before we did the show, Dark Phoenix 2019.
Yeah, it's as you joke. Yes, this is they did make another X-Men movie, and it was in fact another version of the Dark Phoenix saga. But I do want to say before we close up, I would know we have technically one more X-Men movie that we will be talking about. But this is like the official end of these characters that we're talking about as a whole. Specifically, our X-Men, Professor Xavier School of Misfits and Outcasts, or whatever the hell name of the school's called. I forgot what it was called. Doesn't matter.
Gifted Youngsters? I don't know.
Gifted Youngsters. That's what it was.
Is that really it?
It
wow,
is.
look at me.
It is. It is Gifted Youngsters. But I was like, fuck it. They rename it at the end of the movie anyway, so it doesn't matter.
They rename it a million times. It's fine.
That's fine. But yes, that you are absolutely correct. We are talking about X-Men Dark Phoenix, which of course came out in 2019, which feels is so long ago, but really is not that long ago.
It feels simultaneously like
Yeah.
last year and also like a lifetime ago.
That's right, because we had those 2 years that just were zapped away from us, and now we're just in a weird gap year where all of a sudden there's a sequel to another. Okay, it doesn't matter. But yes, here we are. We are talking, of course, yes, Dark Phoenix. We're gonna go ahead and just go on right into our first class, which of course is history class, where we talk about some of the details. And that, of course, is that this movie is directed by Simon Kinberg, who at this moment actually I think didn't direct really anything. I tried to look up his IMDb. I think this is his first and only movie. I want to double check real quick. But I was he's been mostly a producer, which I found fascinating. As when I go to look to IMDb and see all the credits, he's produced quite a few things. But ultimately, this is one of the first times that he's got to step out and be the lead person on a project. He of course produced Logan, Fantastic Four. That's Fantastic that one.
Van
Forsyth, and some of the other X-Men movies. But this is the first time him stepping up and of course being the director, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, I'm still trying to look to see if he's done anything else since this, but basically, this movie. From there, of course, he also took writing responsibilities, which I also find that very interesting. The studio is still Fox Studios. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, the logo still says Fox Studios on it, which I think might be the last time we see that. So, rest in peace, Fox Studios logo. You will be missed. Instead, we'll be seeing 21st Century is the new logo, which, that's always been the title, but we've shortened it down to Fox Studios. This movie, of course, stars Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy, Jennifer Lawrence, Sophie Turner, Nicholas Hoult, Evan Peters, Jessica Chastain, and a lot of other superfluous characters that are also in the mix there. Of course, my boy Cyclops is in there too, but we'll get there later.
Oh, yeah.
Where can you stream this movie? Thank God it's on Disney Plus. I want to thank Disney Plus for putting all these extended X-Men movies on one platform that was easy and accessible. So thank you for that. So if you need to watch any of them, and I think majority of them are all in 4K as well. So definitely, if you are people that like watching in the highest quality, that's also great there. For last, we're going to go ahead and move into the plot. Of course, we don't have a guest slide, so we have you re-entering our plot. We have another favorite, a returning favorite.
Yeah, I did check who wrote the plot, but I have not read the plot, so this will be a cold read.
Yes.
We love to do that here. All right, let's get into it. Almost one long and peaceful decade after the nearly disastrous events in X-Men Apocalypse. Oh, that's when that takes place. I was wondering what the time frame was on this movie. That was one of the questions. We'll get to them. There's more. Okay. Nearly disastrous events in X-Men Apocalypse 2016, Professor Charles Xavier's X-Men enjoy a mutually beneficial pact with the humans, undertaking increasingly dangerous missions as the Earth's valiant protectors. However, during a risky NASA crisis in 1992, Jean Grey is imbued with an unfathomable cosmic force, and even though she should be dead, this inexhaustible but uncontrollable energy enhances her already formidable abilities, transforming her into an all-powerful being. More and more, Jean's otherworldly powers become unpredictable and destructive, posing a direct threat not only to herself and her companions, but also to the entire world. Dun dun dun. Is humankind prepared for the rise of the Dark Phoenix? Thank you, Nick Reganis, and all of your superfluous word choices for your lovely plot recaps.
So wonderfully wordy and gets you right to the point, isn't it? It leaves you off with a question, so there we go.
Always.
Which I also love. So again, thank you, Nick. If I find that you've done, I love that in your spare time you've just been writing synopses for at least X-Men movies. I think you did the Spider-Man one too, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I gotta look in to see like what are you doing? What are you doing these days?
Deep dive on their IMDb page.
Yeah, are you still active? Did you do Mobius? I really want to know. So we'll find out as we get there. But of course, the comic book characters that we have in this one, there's a lot of them, but I'll start with Professor X, Magneto, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Mystique, Storm, Beast, Quicksilver. And then there's a few other specific ones that I don't know who they are. There's not, Dazzler. Dazzler shows up. That's the one that I was been most excited about. And that's about a small sum of him. This is actually, I say there's a lot of characters. This is probably the one where it's been the most manageable of how many people are there since like First Class. But otherwise, that is our comic book characters. We're going to go ahead and move on straight into talking about this. We've talked a lot about all these X-Men films. We're going to go right into the Stanley Seminar and really talk about the final one in a lot of ways. Sly, what are your thoughts? Because you didn't even know this movie existed until obviously we started doing this show. What is your thoughts on the final chapter for our X-Men characters?
Yeah. So I had low expectations because, again, I haven't heard anybody talk about this. Everybody I know who like enjoys X-Men at least casually, like hasn't seen this movie, right? Like, so I really had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I had a blast. I thought it was pretty solid. Like I enjoyed it. Right? But I do have like a million questions. I don't know if you'll be able to answer all of them.
I'll try my best.
But okay, let's start off with the timeline of this movie.
Oh God.
Because according to this plot, it's a decade after X-Men Apocalypse.
Yes.
When we get the NASA scene. Okay.
Yes.
I could be wrong, but didn't we see the like origin story of the Phoenix Force at the end of X-Men Apocalypse?
You are not wrong. We did.
Okay. Cool.
And I did.
Glad we're on the same page there.
No, you absolutely did. It came out of Jean Grey, just like it does in the original Last Stand movie, where it seemed to be already had been there this whole entire time. However, when I was looking at,
we've retconned that.
When I looked at information, basically Simon Kinberg was like, yeah, whatever. We're going to disregard the end of the last one because we wanted to make it
great.
They wanted to be closer to the comic books, which it is a force from space. It is a cosmic force. So good on them for at least attempting, but still finding a way to fucking circumvent their own continuity, which I do want to point out immediately. You pointed out that this movie takes place in 1992. And do you remember when First Class took place?
The 70s.
68 or something like that, right? Ish.
Yeah, okay.
And then we're gonna say Days of Future Past technically is in the 70s.
Oh, that was
70s.
Yeah.
And then we have Apocalypse, which is 80s. It's theoretically 82 because this says 10 years later.
Okay, I guess.
And then this is 92.
Wow, these people aged so gracefully.
Just fucking immaculate. Now, granted.
And I mean, like, for Raven, that makes sense.
Yes.
But everybody else.
Everyone else is a little sus.
It's been 40 years?
Yeah, 40 years. By the way, to keep in context, this ends in 92, and James McAvoy is Professor Xavier. In 1999, he looks like Patrick Stewart.
Oh, you're so right. He does.
So,
it was a tough, 6 years?
It was a tough winter of 6 years, and they just aged dramatically. And then we're talking not only that, but Michael Fassbender, obviously Jean Grey, and Jean Grey's alive later.
Yeah.
By the time we get that story, but yeah, there's a lot. So I know I used to have a thing where I would actually like pull up the scene here. I don't even know if I still have it up. I have not filled this in since I've last looked at that. But basically, the whole timeline's fucked. No matter how much I make a fake timeline bracket thing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And at this point, who cares? At this point, you know what? I'm on my adventure with Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy. And I think, you know what? Okay, here we go. They're the only gay couple that I want to follow throughout this whole movie anyways. So
I love them so much. We'll get to it. I screamed when Eric appeared on my screen for the first time in this movie. I was so here for it. All right, I have more questions.
Yes.
Though. The second one, the aliens. Who the fuck are they? Because at first, I was like, that looks like Groot. I don't know what species Groot is, but I was like, maybe that's it. And then immediately I was like, no, they're shape-shifting. And then I was like, Skrulls? And then I was like, no, that's a disrespect to the Skrulls. We love the Skrulls. I am a Skrull stan in this household. So do we know what these aliens are?
So they're movie made.
Okay,
there are aliens. I mean, I'll double check if there are a version of these in the comic books, but these are not the normal. These are not the aliens that I looked up earlier. So when I type in VUK, which is their name, the Volk, all I get is the movie. I don't get anything else. So they're basically a movie specific thing, but they're supposed to be from these aliens, and specifically a force that's in that is, I don't want to say in the Earth, in space, called the Shi'ar. They're like a whole race of people. They're like a whole bunch of characters. Like Liara, who's like the leader of like the Shi'ar, is like a love interest of Professor X at one point. Like it's kind of hot, and like they do things together. But like,
love that for them.
essentially the whole story, if I'm not mistaken, is that like something goes on with like the Hellfire Club, which was introduced in the first movie, and then
with Emma Frost.
Emma Frost and all them, so like all those guys, and then basically they had something to do with the Phoenix, or Jean Grey becoming the Dark Phoenix. Basically, like a force comes from the sky and becomes her, and she's got cooler powers, but then she becomes evil. Like that whole storyline is still true, and then I think the Shi'ar are supposed to come in and help them. So that's essentially my knowledge of the story. I'm not very well versed in the Dark Phoenix saga, only because I do find a lot of older Marvel stories a little inaccessible in terms of reading them. And so the Dark Phoenix saga kind of, in my opinion, fits in that vein. So my only knowledge comes from like The Last Stand in this movie. But or the X-Men animated series apparently did a couple versions of this as well, but also never fully. Like Dark Phoenix is just not my thing. So my understanding, aliens are involved. It is a cosmic force. The only time that I remember actually, and I think you actually said this too, where like the Phoenix saga, where like Cyclops also became the Phoenix at one point, and that was cool. That happened.
I think Maya Lopez had it at some point as well. Echo.
Yes, that's
all I know. I haven't actually read it, but I just remember seeing her pop up in the.
I remember there was a
Phoenix
storyline. It was called like the Phoenix Force 5. And I was like, that's a dope ass name.
Ooh,
and it was like 5 different people out of the power. But that's getting into the weeds. But essentially, yes, there are aliens involved in the story. And this is them loosely adapting it, basically. It's like
ambiguous aliens.
Which is literally what they are.
My follow-up question was the VUK. I don't know if they ever said that name out loud. Is that the lady's name or the like alien species in general, or both?
I just watched the movie. I can't tell you. I'm not even sure.
Great.
I'm looking up Jessica Chastain's name. Nope, actually, that's her name. Her name is Volk.
Okay.
So if her name is Volk, and I'm trying to look at anyone else on the other team that had her, I don't see any of the other. I don't see any other people labeled here. I guess we're gonna just say her, but at the same time, I also want to say everyone is Volk. I don't fucking know. I don't know. It seems vague.
Who knows?
At best.
Cool. Great. Love that.
Yes.
What else do I have written here? Oh, okay. This movie was so fun to me because I don't know how much you'll hate me after this. Charles Xavier as a character has never been my favorite.
Sure.
I think he's really interesting as a character because he's like such a deeply flawed person.
Yes.
And has like this strong sense of like, I am correct and my way is the only moral way. And that's really interesting, especially when you're comparing it to all of the antagonists he's gone up against, who often are very sympathetic. Not always, but often. And I think this movie just does such a great job of showing a Charles that is so deeply flawed as an individual, and because of that is such an compelling character. Like, you're like so invested in what story they're telling with him, because you're like, wow, dude, you're so in the wrong for like almost all of this movie. Like, you are the biggest threat here because you think your way is right.
So I'll follow that up and give my thoughts of the movie. I remember watching this movie in theaters and was just bored by it. I just didn't care. Whatever. Just this is how we're ending this. Please give the rights back to Marvel. Blah 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 blah. Like, I was caught up in all of that. That's essentially what my thinking was, and that's what the lesson of this show is. Basically, going back and revisiting thing and separating myself from that and just enjoying it for what it was. I ended up really liking it a little bit, for the most. So just because of the character moments and because we've gotten to know these characters over the course of all of these movies. And we throw silly things about the timeline, and we throw the fact that the villains in here are very nonsensical, and they could probably not be in this movie, and would totally be okay. Because I love the idea, like, you're right. It's like, even though Professor X is like the good guy, he is probably the biggest villain in the movie for the most part. Obviously, Dark Phoenix does some shit, but she does some shit just because of all the things that she's been impacted by. And that alone, I found sympathy for both the characters in a lot of ways. So it's funny you bring that up. I ended up really falling for the story of like, oh yeah, the Professor is this person that we've seen as, especially the the Patrick Stewart version, where we're just like, you know, he's just the lead person, the warmth person, the person they go to, the Wolverine, like seeks for guidance and stuff like that. And then Logan got to tell the story of him like just like falling apart. This was a great version of it. And then we got that a little bit also in the Days of Future Past. So I don't want to fully like say this movie was like pushing it, but definitely there was hints there, and I think it carried on through here. Of like even at his like peak, I am not Professor X, he's still fallible in a lot of ways, and I feel like this movie does a great job of breaking that down, breaking that character down, all the way up to the final moment of like where he has to finally give in and say like, yeah, I am wrong,
reckon with that.
Exactly. And I think that's what made me like the movie a lot more, was those character moments and interactions.
And his narrative throughout this film was so interesting, because we start with like the gift pen analogy that was so excellent. The like, you can create something beautiful or you can stab somebody's eye out with this. It's how you use it, whatever. Like that was so powerful. And then we see this movie where he is like so deeply fallible the whole way through, and at the end him reckoning with that, like that was so strong to compare that like opening scene with where he ends. And like I feel that way about so many of the characters. Not all of them. You know, R.I.P. Raven, that one was hard for me. That hurt a little bit. I was not prepared for it.
That, man, that just screamed like, I'm done of this shit. I don't want to wear blue no more. Fucking kill me.
And that just breaks my heart, because like, I get that was the motivation for like Hank leaving or whatever, but like, I really just wanted to see her retire and leave and learn how to like live with and appreciate humans. And she never got that. And that broke my heart a little bit. But it made for a compelling story. So what can you do?
It got Hank to want to commit murder, which let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about that. I love the fact that yes, the whole thread is something's going on with I keep calling her Dark Phoenix. She's Jean Grey. Something's going on with Jean Grey. And she commits this one thing that we know that she's unstable for, and it's really awful and really bloody, by the way. The way they show it, really graphic. But I love that a man of science is just immediately like, no, I'm going to fucking kill you. I'm going to go find Magneto. And we're both going to fucking kill you. Because he's the only other person that I know that would absolutely just drop everything and like fucking want to kill you. I thought that was pretty funny. I thought it was a little silly, but I was like, all right, we got to have a reason why there's conflict. Yeah.
But I think it was really cool to see Hank, who has always been, you know, the put together man of science, like I am the support, have this breaking moment, and him going like, the only other person who understands my need for vengeance is Eric. And so I'm going to him because I know he loved Raven like I loved her. And that was just really cool. Also, it meant we got to see more Eric in this movie.
Yes, we did.
And I did, there's a group chat I'm in who, while I was in the middle of watching this movie earlier, I did text, I'm an Eric Lencher stan first and a person second. So I was having a great time personally with this film.
Let's talk about that. So after the events of Apocalypse, where he seemingly joined up with, I guess, with Professor X, if I'm not mistaken, or at least I had some conversation of just like they're helping run this thing together. What were your thoughts of him actually running his own sort of like commune? Country, which they don't specify what that is or where it is, but like, is that
it was giving like reservation vibes
Yes, it was
from
definitely.
the way the military was talking about it.
Yeah, and I'm curious like how that got approved, especially knowing they know that he's there. Like they don't really explain that
Yeah.
because he didn't.
Uh-huh.
He did kind of help A, try to kill the president once, B,
That-
cause the world to
It's fine.
possibly
We
end.
all have moments.
Which is why I'm like, oh, he killed Raven. I've done that before, you know, like something, you know, something like not immediately like I gotta fucking kill her, which is fine.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool. Genosha is the
Genosha
name of the planet?
is that they actually said in the movie because I don't remember them saying anything.
Okay, I'll be real honest. I had no idea. I wrote in my notes Brotherhood Camp ?
True.
And then I did immediately open up AO3 after I finished this film and
Got it.
searched for post Dark Phoenix fanfiction,
Sure.
and they all called it Genosha.
Okay.
So that's what
That could no, Genosha is the thing in the comics. Savage Land was
Okay.
another option, and then like Metroid M, but these are all things that like he's had home bases in, so this makes sense that this would be Genosha, or at least a haven for mutants. So that makes sense. But what are your thoughts of him actually sort of like seemingly just creating a community, which I thought was lovely, actually, to be honest with you. Like they have like this whole like culture over there.
I love that. I love that for him. I think Eric as a character we've seen over every iteration has such a strong sense of justice, and while that has been like very flawed when he's put in the antagonist perspective, he's always been such a sympathetic antagonist, and every iteration of his character has shown such strong like leadership and community, and he just wants a family. Like every time he tries to make a family, people take it away from him, and so for him to become a leader of this like I don't know, commune reservation, I don't know, it makes sense to me. I bought it 100%.
You're absolutely right. I didn't even thought about that. He's had the Brotherhood of Mutants from the original series. He's had the new Brotherhood that was after First Class, and then if I'm not mistaken, he had his actual family.
Give the man a family.
This man wants a family, Charles. Yes. No,
Charles, give your boyfriend a family. God damn it.
God damn it, Charles. Stop playing chess. I love my Fassbender. I want to give him his flowers for both this movie, but also I think just his entire attachment to the character of Magneto, adding so much to it. What Ian McKellen had already added from the original set of movies. I think he does a wonderful job portraying that character as a sympathetic, menacing as all hell, and you almost want to root for him in a lot of ways. And so
I am rooting for him.
Absolutely. You have a I stand with I stand with Magneto t-shirt. Just as much as I have the I stand with Cyclops t-shirt, which I have that t-shirt actually in Midnight Suns, which is great. And it says
love.
Or was it says Cyclops wasn't wrong or something? It doesn't matter. It's hilarious. But yeah, no, I love everything that he does in this movie, just because of he's just great. He's just great to watch whenever he's on screen.
Especially that first scene with Jean, where he is like, he knows exactly what she's going through, and for her to seek him out, and for her to react poorly when the military shows up, which I mean, valid. I would too.
Yes, I love the scene. I love the scene when he's like doing this. And then the military guy's like, stop doing this. Like, it's not me. it's not me. I'm trying to save you right now.
Growth.
Yes, absolutely.
Love to see it.
Absolutely, because he would have just killed them all. So he's just like, get in your helicopters. No, he would have. That is absolutely growth. So I do love that. I do love the little push he gives them. That he does.
Little boost.
Just a little boost. Like, here you go. But yeah, I very much love everything that he, of course, contributes to the movie for sure. Of course, this movie is titled The Dark Phoenix. We got a little bit of Sophie Turner's Jean Grey in the last movie, what are your thoughts of them being sort of the forefront of this story and their character overall? Now that we've seen two pretty different variations of the character.
Yeah, I think this is the stronger Jean Grey. Um, just because I feel like they give her so much more to work with.
Sure.
Like, I think like that's definitely more of a commentary on the writing than the performance by all means. Um, but yeah, I think she did make some really interesting choices with like the character arc throughout this film of like, you know, her in like the space scene
Mm-hmm.
where she's like, I can do this, like very confident, very like capable in her powers, to her getting wasted and losing control. And that being like the first like, oh shit, something like really happened that we have to worry about. And that shift was really well played, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I especially with that leading into like all of the Charles mind wall
Yes.
shit.
Yes. Which there are fun, interesting things that I did see in this version compared to the other one, where I think it's who is she doing it to? She's doing this. I think she's doing it to Professor X. She's doing it to something, but it's like melting away. There's a scene where like, oh no, is it
Where
Magneto?
like the walls melt.
But it was like their body. Like I forgot who it was. It was like their hands were melting away, kind of like how she dusts him in the first movie.
Oh yeah.
But I don't remember who she's not doing it to Charles. She's doing it to someone else, but it was very similar, the same effect. And I like that little crossover that they had with it. But I will say I do enjoy this version of the character better in terms of how dark they get, because it's not necessarily they're dark because they're evil. It's dark because they're just misunderstood and there's so much power being driven through them. And I think that's more interesting than just I'm bad now. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that this character is somebody who had a tragic thing happen to them.
Yes.
And now has this power that they lose control over when they are in heightened emotions, and everything about what's happening is heightened emotions, and it's just this like cyclical nature of getting like stronger and stronger powers.
Yes.
Until we get to that like the epic battle, which I would love to dissect. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But like this character isn't like an antagonist, I would say, isn't like a villain.
Yeah.
I think she's really the victim of this story. Like she
Yes.
had this thing happen to her. She can't control it and doesn't know why, and is trying to figure out how to control it, and just happens to, you know, murder a lot of people along the way.
No, I 100% agree with you. It's almost like in a lot of ways it's like the Frankenstein monster, where the Frankenstein monster is only a victim of a circumstance because he was created and not necessarily something that he chose to do, and therefore he doesn't know any better. In this instance, it's all of this being held back from her. It's all this being put upon her with the power, which I do find that interesting, and I think does add to the character for sure. But yeah,
I will say visually, the car crash with the dad being very obviously alive, I thought was a goof. And the way that played as me believing, like that dude's just like the actor's like fidgeting or whatever.
Yeah.
And I totally believed that he was actually dead until we got the reveal. So I thought that was really funny to me.
That's good. I was actually surprised to see that actor that plays the father, because I didn't know him from when I watched the movie in 2019, but he's actually one of the antagonists in the Last of Us TV show. And so to see him pop up again, I was like, oh shit, okay. So okay. You both.
We love a crossover.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Okay, going through those are the major players. I would say they're in the character. We did talk about the bad guys, but let's be honest, there's not a lot going on. I do want to go at least to the set pieces in this movie because there's actually some interesting areas that we go to, including space. We go to space in this movie.
We sure do.
Sure do. We take, and apparently the fucking Blackbird can go into space, which in 1992,
Sure.
technology. All right, great. And can come back. That was the part that I was like, wait, it came back? It landed? Okay, sure. Whatever you say.
Sure.
They didn't show it. They just were back. But ultimately, what do you think of that first opening set piece as like this? The X-Men are now the heroes of the world. Like these are heroes for us. What do you thought about that specifically?
The freaking president with an X phone.
Yeah,
that was cool as shit. I did have a lot of questions about the logistics of the X plane in space.
Yes,
but it's fine. And I also had a lot of questions on the logistics of as the shuttle was breaking apart and they were in it.
Yeah.
Like especially Jean was just in it, holding it together.
Yeah.
How is she breathing? Who knows? I tried to wave that off. But I had to suspend some major disbelief that whole scene.
It gave me Guardians of the Galaxy vibes, where like you could just be out there for a minute, just icing up, and then all of a sudden, just a little breath of air. Yeah, no, I thought that was pretty silly. I did love though, Peter wrapping. Of course, the duct tape around the helmet.
That was great. That was a great moment.
Yeah, it's a great use of Peter because we don't really get much in this movie, which I guess we could talk about a little briefly here. We still have Quicksilver. He's in this movie. He doesn't get his iconic like music thing, which
we did not get a music scene from him.
No.
I also was like, how's that familial relations going? Because I don't think we ever saw him and Eric interact.
No, we didn't. Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
No.
So I guess we could say that didn't go over well.
No. We get the one moment where he runs up the boards, and then of course she tricks him. He runs and breaks himself, and then he's gone for the rest of the movie. Which I don't know if that was like, I'm also tired of this shit, or it was, I have to do 500 seasons of American Horror Story. Like, I'm not sure. I don't know what Ryan Murphy has on that guy. But ultimately, yeah, he is just sort of like a miss in this movie. And that's kind of sad because he's been a favorite of mine for the last several movies. But, poor boy. Ran and hurt his foot. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah. The next major set piece, which obviously would be the running of or the Jean Grey battling the X-Men. What do you think of the X-Men suits this time around? Because this is the first time that we've seen them like in a synchronized thing since like First Class and the original series. What did you think of the suits?
I kind of fucking adore these suits.
They look like onesies.
I thought the pants looked very nice on everybody.
Yeah.
We got a little booty. That was fun. And I thought that like the tops weren't like, it felt like it was like paying homage to like the classic like blue and yellow or whatever, but it wasn't like over the top. I thought they were like understated, but in a good way.
Yeah, I think they're semi a reference to, I think, Grant Morrison or the Grant Morrison run, where the look of the X-Men kind of had that giant yellow X and stuff like that, which I find that very cool. However, your last movie teased awesome costumes that we didn't get, and that hurt so bad because I would really have loved for that to actually been a thing, but no, they chose not to do that, which, sad for me.
I feel like they just said X-Men Apocalypse, haven't heard of it, and just decided to do whatever the hell they wanted. Which is a choice. I don't know if it's my favorite choice, but it's the one they made, and they stuck to it.
They sure did. They gave us a budget, and It made no money back. So
Oof.
then from there, I would say the Manhattan, which hey, X-Men in New York, that was cool, and a street set. That was clearly a street set, but I don't know.
Yeah, I freaking adored that fight.
Yeah,
Everything about it, the way that both sides were like working together, but like opposing each other.
sure.
Like they didn't realize that they're had the same goals
Yes.
basically. Um, the way that the choreography outside and inside the building interacted. Eric just straight up lifting a subway car out of the earth
Yes.
and ramming it through a building. Very attractive. The street scene was really fun. But I felt like it was like setting up everything they wanted to do visually with the big train fight.
Yeah.
And so that was really fun to me because I thought like the angles were pretty fun and the like action was really fun. But then after I had seen the big final battle or whatever, I was like, wow, they really were like ramping up to that in a really cool way.
Yeah, I agree because I think that the train sequence, which we'll probably talk about now, I think was a good. It's not as bombastic as I would say any of the other movies, but I do love that it's still the simple like it's just a moving train, and we're just trying to stop this force that all has the same powers, and everyone getting to team up in different ways and do different things. In their different sectional cards, Cyclops finally getting to do some cool stuff. Let's talk about my favorite indie movie that took place in the film, and that is Nightcrawler and the Guard, where that was so sad.
Oh, my heart. Shout out to that guard. That dude acted his ass off.
Yes, he did.
And in that scene, the one note I had was the like military force or
Yes.
like their uniforms said MCU.
Did
I don't
they?
know what that stands for, but it did make me giggle. Yeah, they were
That's
the MCU.
hilarious. We're taking you to our place now.
So that was really fun. That whole sequence with the guard being like, my kid was a huge fan, and Nightcrawler be like, you could still help or whatever.
Yeah.
The guard force getting absolutely shreked, and that dude just booking it to the control panel, and then like a heart wrenching.
Yeah.
Like usually like the big like side character deaths or whatever, but like Nightcrawler's like emotion was
Yes.
just like so visceral. It was so well done.
As a character that we know to be semi-docile, obviously we've seen him be terrifying, especially at the beginning of X-Men
His
X2.
like introduction was a fight
Yes.
in a very brutal one at that.
Very brutal one, like literally like about to kill the president. And then this one, then since then we've had just like this very calm and like, like he was in a fight in the last one and didn't want to fight, But then to just see him go all out Nightcrawler, I was just like, oh, I've been waiting for this for a long time. They didn't give him the sword, but that's fine. They gave him something just similar enough, specifically when he uses his tail. And I was just like, this is, wow. It made me want, I was like, damn, I wish I got more Nightcrawler movies. But nonetheless. Then the big fight. Is there any other touchstones here that you like specifically?
I just really loved Michael Fassbender's physicality with his fighting. It's so graceful and fluid, and the moment in particular where it's the car that's full of the aliens or whatever, and he just does that crush and the wrist flick.
Yes.
It's so good. I lost my mind. It's just like, because like this is a character who we've seen develop his powers in like very traumatic circumstances.
Yes.
And then we've seen him use his powers in very different ways in every film, right? Like we get to see a different like power style for Magneto, it feels fresh every time we see him. And one is just so like in his body and so relaxed and so, it's like so fluid. It was just really beautiful. I really fighting in this movie.
Yeah, no, Michael Fassbender again, the goat out of all of this for sure. And
the other in the big train scene, the lightning from Storm was so crisp. It was like crinkly, like I could feel it in my teeth. That animation was really cool.
Yeah, I think everyone gets fun standout moments. Even like the random mutant characters that Magneto brings to have some fun moments as well. But yeah, no, very cool. I think it's a very interesting. It was a fun final set piece for sure. All the way up to when then the train basically derails and explodes for the most part, and then we get Jean Grey just
waking up
and going ham and just going to town.
Love to see it.
Yes. Fighting Jessica Chastain, which we haven't really talked a lot about Jessica Chastain. I mean, do you have any thoughts specifically on her portrayal as the main bad guy?
I couldn't tell if it was purposefully very flat or not.
Sure.
It just felt like there was never any emotion behind her eyes the entire way through.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell if that was a choice. Like, this was, some of the awkwardness in the movement or whatever was definitely like the trying to emulate humankind or whatever.
Yeah.
But just like, it's so blank on the face. And I couldn't get past that.
Yeah, I think the main issue that I had with it is just I just had no connection to this villain, to this character, and then it to even warrant it as like, are they doing a bad or good job? Because I just thought of them as a nothing thing and not a threat. I was only caring about Jean Grey and the sort of battle that she had with Professor X, which is really the protagonist in this movie, and they're just sort of an afterthought.
So much about this franchise of films and their history of sympathetic villains. For us to have this like character, this species, that we see the destruction of their planet, like very explicitly, and for us to still not have anything to latch on to care about with these villains really says something about like how inconsequential they are to the everything of this movie.
Yes, that's absolutely the nail on the head right there. That's exactly the thought and feelings that I have for the bad guys in this film. Yep, that sums it up. All right, but overall,
all right,
do you have anything else?
We got to talk about the ending.
Yeah, let's talk about the ending. Where do you want to start?
Okay. I did not buy that she was dead for a second.
Not even.
I was like, there's absolutely no way she's dead. And then we get like the Phoenix in the sky or whatever, the like voiceover or whatever.
Yes.
But I was just like, you really like, I didn't believe that the characters believed she didn't make it.
Yeah. No, for sure. Specifically, just the way that she just sort of like it's her final goodbye. The one thing I noticed was, did you actually catch this? The opening dialogue of the movie is not for Professor X. It's actually Jean Grey, which I thought was fascinating. So to me, and then she's narrating her story, I guess, later as well. In a lot of ways, I never believed that this character was dead. So when they show that the Phoenix is still out there, my only main issue with it is that it's just not going to be resolved in any way, and we're not going to see how that resolves. We're just gonna have to connect the dots that at some point she is in the same timeline as, I assume, when Wolverine goes back in time. That timeline, because X2 what was it? X2 and X3 no longer exist in that timeline or whatever the fuck. So something happens, but I just ultimately, that's the biggest problem that I have is like, that storyline's just never going to be resolved. And I'm just going to have to live with that. Unless they somehow, Kevin Feige loves to fix things. if he could fix the X-Men in that way, then I would actually be interested. But I'm curious of how we'll actually handle that, since we are getting technically some of these characters back for an MCU picture. But ultimately, the true ending to me is just, and it's the ending of the series.
The date?
It's the date. It's Charles Xavier.
I'm so feral for these two. I just, my favorite boyfriends, and they get to just be happy
Yeah,
and going on a date and playing chess
that's right.
in France. I love that for them.
Yeah, I love they're both retired. They're just doing their own thing. Like,
Man.
no, to me that was actually like the good ending. Where I was just like, even when I saw the first, I was just like, hey man, if you're gonna end the series, you're gonna end the series with these two guys. So I'm totally happy with that. But yeah, no, I love these characters. I loved them since I was a kid. I love them all the way up till now, with a new, fresher appreciation for them and different contexts for them as well. This has a real nice ending. So I definitely appreciate it for sure.
Yeah. And I think this, I mean, it hasn't been that long. So, like, if, like, we say it holds up or not, that I feel like that's inconsequential. But if you haven't seen this for some godforsaken reason, I think it's definitely a must watch. Like, even I've not been very much like a huge fan
Yeah.
of the X-Men movies as we've been going through. Like, I haven't like hated any of them, but it's rare for me to be like, wow, like that was one of the best movies we've watched for the show, right? But even with that perspective, like not having this childhood love for these characters, not being like so invested, but just like knowing their story and having seen all of the previous movies, I think this is like definitely a must watch at least once, because it's all your faves.
Yeah.
It's, you know, they have really interesting character narratives, and it's just a nice package of Cherrick. And what more do you need in life?
If you need one more package of Cherrick, this is what you need. You know, I'll follow up saying that like this does. Everyone, I think, pretty much shits on the movie, and it's just because everyone just doesn't think about it, and that's the last taste that they got of these characters, and I don't think it deserves that. Honestly, I think that in the grand scheme of things, there are worse movies out there. We reviewed them on the show. Punisher.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you. And this Far for Seas is something absolutely watchable. I think, was there another one that I hated? I think Apocalypse. I didn't hate Apocalypse. I just sort of...
You had strong feelings about not liking Apocalypse.
It's not my favorite.
Which, I mean, it wasn't great.
Yeah.
I had a great time with it.
I honestly like this one more, shockingly enough, and I think it's just because it just was just a more grounded movie, and it wasn't like the world's ending and everything's like exploding, and I liked more.
You just like perfectly nailed on the head what I loved about this movie without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
It is so grounded in the characters and so grounded in like in the narrative they're telling, and not in this like catastrophic event. And then there's the stories that I love the most.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a really solid movie.
Yeah, I think it's worth it for sure. I think it's definitely worth it. And as we now come to the close of all these characters, we'll eulogize the series when we finish the actual last one, when we get to New Mutants. But ultimately, yeah, we'll save that for that episode.
I will say, I was devastated by the line where Raven and Hank are talking, and Raven's like, "We're the last of the first class."
Yeah.
And that was like a dagger in the heart when that happened. And then after Raven, when I was like, Hank is the last of the first class.
That's right.
Emotional devastation. So that was fun.
Yeah. Oh Lord. Go see Dark Phoenix. Give it a chance. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right. I think that.
Let's get into some drama.
Yeah, let's get some drama. We actually spent a lot of time. I actually did not expect that, to be honest with you, but I'm kind of happy with the conversation that we had. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to our next class, which of course is the drama class. You've gone ahead and picked some of the scenes out of this movie that you'd like for us to do, and I'll let you choose the roles. What would you like to do?
I mean, if you're letting me choose, I'm just gonna be Eric.
Of course you are. Of course you are. We can do. Okay, sounds good. You can do Eric both times.
Okay.
All right. This is Volk. Apparently, this is their person's name. I have no desire to fight you.
I get that a lot.
You wanted her dead.
I had a change of heart.
And then just riddles them with bullets. Fantastic.
Oh, I love that. All right. Okay, everybody's favorite boyfriends.
That's right. There we go. Hello, old friend.
Save the old friend shit, Charles, and stay out of my way.
I'm sorry for what she did, but I can't let you go in there.
You're always sorry, Charles, and there's always a speech, but nobody cares anymore.
We do this here, now they'll see us as monsters. Violent freaks fighting on the streets of New York.
What did I tell you?
Damn it, man, your homeland will be gone. Everything you care about.
Save it. Oh, you want to do Scott
sure.
too? I forgot he was here.
If you touch her, I'll fucking kill you.
We love the utilizing the one fuck word.
Oh, that Scott got it.
I love that Scott got it.
Don't do this, Eric. Killing Jean will not bring Raven back.
The girl dies.
Like flies away and does some cool shit. Oh Lord, so good, so good. And then of course, I mean, their final talk as well is also really nice. Just one more game, for old time's sake. So good.
Oh man,
so good. So that concludes, of course, drama class. Going into music room. Usually, there's music for soundtracks and blah 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 blah. There wasn't really. I didn't hear anything.
didn't notice any.
No, which sucks because the last two movies had like at least the slowdown moments, and then we didn't get anything really for this. So I think that was a big pitfall for this movie to not really even have a score that was interesting.
The only like Quicksilver scene we got was the space one,
Yeah.
and they did some like cool sound design with the spaceship, but we didn't get really any standout music.
No.
But
No, which kind of sucks, but yeah, it is what it is, I guess.
I mean, I always say like the hallmark of like a quality score is when you don't notice. Like you only notice if it's bad or like overpowering.
Yes.
And so I think like the score complemented the movie nicely, but like it wasn't anything exceptional.
Yeah.
So
Nope, that is fair. And then now we're going to move into my favorite part of the show, which of course is quiz time, where I get to ask you some questions and you get points if you're right or not. Now I wrote these questions for a couple days ago. I believe I know the answer. Yeah, I do have the answers right here. Okay, cool.
cool.
So
Great.
good. The first question is, of course, is Stanley in this movie?
I don't think so.
He is not in this movie. So
I didn't see any tributes.
There is a tribute.
What's the tribute?
But it's a blink and you miss it. There is a mailbox or a stand thing that says Excelsior Times. And that's the only little like
a newspaper box or
box.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It said Excelsior Times on there, and I thought that was cute. So to me, that is
cute.
That is the one little nod that I did see towards Stan. So who has appeared in quite a few X-Men movies. So shout out to him. Of course, he had passed away at around this time because this is actually Endgame time. That's wild to say. So fucking wild to say out loud. That this is Endgame time. But yeah. The next question, of course, I'm going to ask you are how many X-Men movies are there, including New Mutants? So you got one. All
right. We're just counting ones that have the word X-Men in the title, correct?
No, including the spinoffs.
Oh God.
You can count them out. You can count them out if you want.
Because we have X1, 2, and 3.
Sure, I'll give you that. That's 3.
We have Lord and Savior Origins Wolverine.
Okay.
We have First Class, Days of Future Past.
Okay.
Is that the next one?
Sure.
What are we on? 6?
I'm on 7.
7.
Yeah, first 3. Wolverine, First Class,
Wolverine,
Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past. Okay. Then Apocalypse.
Days of Future. Yeah. Okay.
Then this one.
Yeah. Okay.
And then New Mutants is after.
What are we missing?
Okay. The spin-offs. There's like Wolverine something.
The Wolverine.
Logan.
Okay, now we're at 11. 2
Uh-huh.
more.
Oh God. Who else is an X-Man?
Who's our favorite comedian?
Oh, Deadpool and Deadpool 2.
That's right. There are 13 movies.
Yeah,
We're gonna watch 13 movies in one franchise, which would be the longest franchise, of course, that we've covered on this series. So wild. And lastly, these are all questions, by the way, because I didn't really have anything specific about the making of this movie. This is all shit that I'm like, hey, maybe just take a guess on this one. How much money has the X-Men franchise made of all time? So this is including all 13 of those movies. A, 1 billion, B, 3 billion, and C, 6 billion.
Are we're like just counting, like not include
all 13?
Like how much it? Okay.
Yeah, all 13. The whole franchise.
Okay. Here's the thing. I feel like that's a lot of movies.
It's a lot of movies.
And not all of them did great.
That is true.
But they all did something.
Yes.
And so
they do 13
like
of them.
They did. That's 13 movies. I feel like I am leaning towards 3, but I would absolutely not be surprised if it was 6.
It is in fact 6 billion. They have accumulated over 6 billion, which makes them very close to how much I think Disney actually paid for Marvel. I think. Hold on, let me actually look. Disney.
Something around there, wasn't it?
Buys Marvel. Price 4 billion. So this is actually a get for them to actually take over also Fox, because they basically make their money back on just X-Men films alone if they really wanted to. So definitely pretty crazy. But yeah, they bought them for $4 billion and made I can't even, how many movies are at the billion mark already? There's like 4 or 5 movies that are like at the billion mark, right?
So many.
And there's 37 movies, 37 projects. So, yeah, not including. Yeah, that's wild. But yeah, that's a lot of shit. All right. Well, that basically wraps up the show. We're going to go ahead into our homeroom and give our final thoughts of the movie. If you want to leave a final parting message about the Dark Phoenix, go ahead.
Oh, man. I feel like I'm just repeating myself over and over again. But this is a quality contained story with characters you already know and love, telling a really grounded narrative in a really interesting way. And if you hand wave the questionable narrative and not questionable timeline and suspend some disbelief on like how space works, like this is just like a really solid, enjoyable time. And I think if you saw it and hated it, or didn't see it because everybody hated on it, absolutely you owe it to yourself to go back and rewatch or watch this for the first time, because it's just really solid. And also it has Cherrick.
It does have Cherrick.
Like
That's incredible. For my final thought of this movie, it's another one of those movies that I feel like gets too much hate just because it's a part of a long-standing series that sort of wind down in a way that wasn't satisfying to most people, and pretty much because we all wanted, at this point, Spider-Man has already crossed over with Marvel. So this is the point where we're basically hungry for the idea that the X-Men would join Marvel. So this is why a lot of people just throw this movie to the side. And I don't think it deserves that rap. I do think it is something that at least should be watched. It doesn't have to be cherished. I'm okay with that, but at the very least, I think needs to be respected. That this is.
I will cherish it enough for everybody.
And for the character arcs alone of all these characters that this is a 2-decade franchise if you think of it in a lot of ways. There's a lot of love and hope in here, and I think that you would have a good time if you gave it a shot. So that's my final parting words of this movie. But of course, the show is not over just yet. We still have quite a few episodes to go. Very excited, but we are getting to the end. And this is not me, vamping at all to find this list of movies.
I have it pulled up already. We have 4 more episodes left.
4 more episodes.
Season 2.
That's right. And then, of course, we are not leaving the X-Men universe just yet. We'll be back for the New Mutants. It is on Disney Plus, so if you are going to join with us, please go ahead and watch it there. But yeah, we're going to be our final farewell to the X-Men universe will be actually the next time when you watch the show. So please, by all means, join us for that. And as always, Sly, where can people find you on the net?
You can find me hosting 3 weekly live shows and 1 fortnightly podcast. This, of course, is that podcast. But you can find me on Thirsty Thursday, the Point in Progress podcast, and we'll throw the after party at After Party SHO.
Very cool. Of course, you can find me at the Point in Progress podcast, in which we do all the things that we like to talk about and love over there, and a lot of our TikTok content. Please check that out. We're trying to build that up as well. But the last place you can find me, of course, is at Twitter at Rivera. For as long as Twitter's still around, who knows? Every day it's changing. But yeah, that's where you can find me. But of course, that's the end of today's classes. So, class dismissed. Goodbye, Cherrick.
Alrighty. Here's the thing that I wanted to say on the episode,
Yeah.
and then couldn't figure out how to phrase it, so I was saving it till the end. You mentioned that this was endgame times.
Yeah.
How much do you think the need for a one-upping big spectacle really soured people on this? Because it was so grounded.
I don't know, honestly. I think that they were trying to definitely reach their own niche for sure, but at the same time, yeah, I can understand how Endgame definitely took a wind out of a lot of people's sails, because that was, you're returning back from Infinity War.
It was an epic.
Yeah, it was literally an epic. So I can understand how this just pales in comparison. In a lot of ways, yeah, I can understand where there was a whole lot of just not near the same caliber, but at the same time, it's sucks that we kind of, and I think honestly, if I remember correctly, they were already talking about the fact that Fox was being bought by Disney at this time when Dark Phoenix was kind of coming out. So that was also,
that's rough.
So that's also hey, we are we don't care, sell. So that I do find to be definitely a determining factor for sure. But yeah, well, don't worry, because I never stopped recording, and now that's in the episode.
Cool, great.
Class is dismissed.
What they don't understand, what they fear, and what they fear, we seek to destroy.
This is your fault, Charles. I tried to protect her.
I'm scared. When I lose control, bad things happen to people I love.
The girl dies.
She's still Jean. We can still help her.
Sometimes we want to believe people are something that they are not. By the time you realize who they are, it's too late.
She's coming.